The remaining portion of this program covers more advanced safety issues intended for outside contractors conducting work at our facilities. Before a contractor is allowed to work at our facility, they must supply requested safety history information to either the site or corporate safety department. Our PSM program requires contractors working on or near the ammonia or gaseous chlorine systems to have a safety program covering their requirements under the PSM standard. All contractors are required to sign in and out of the facility on the contractor's log, located in the security guard's office. This is an important step while visiting our facility, as this log will be used in case of a facility evacuation. All drivers must coordinate with security and park only in designated areas. This facility has a detailed hazard communication program that includes having material safety data sheets, MSDS, on all chemicals we may have on site. If an MSDS is needed, contact the site safety manager. Your employer is expected to provide an MSDS for any chemicals brought on site that you may use. Chemical products are to be stored and properly labeled in approved containers and used in accordance with labeled instructions. Flammable liquids are to be stored in designated areas, handled in safety containers, and used in areas away from potential ignition source. Keep your work area clean and organized by picking up scrap and waste and placing in designated containers. All work areas should be kept free of other items that may pose a tripping or fire hazard. Place barricades around potential hazards such as unguarded machinery, welding operations, or ladder work. All contractors are required to complete a self-audit safety form routinely throughout the project. These audits must be submitted to the safety department. When working around exposed product, make sure it is covered. Use only designated or approved access routes to your work area. Remember, do not go from an inedible area to an edible area in the facility. All tools and equipment must be appropriate for the tasks, safely used, and in good condition. Power tools should be equipped with appropriate guards, and GFCI devices must be used with electrically powered hand tools. Only fiberglass ladders are to be used in our facilities. They must also meet OSHA requirements and be inspected prior to each use. Any ladder found to be damaged must be removed from service immediately. Scaffolding is to be firmly secured and fully floored with appropriate handrails and access. The work you are performing and the work area will dictate the required PPE you will be expected to wear. Fall protection is required when the work you are performing is exposing you to a fall in excess of 4 feet. All locations in the facility have basic mandatory requirements, which may include hard hat, hearing protection, safety glasses, and appropriate footwear. You will be instructed on the basic requirements of this facility by your site representative. For some operations, special permits may be required to be obtained from your site representative before you begin working. Such operations include welding and cutting, hot work, line break, and confined space. Welding and cutting and hot work. The permit will review special precautions to be taken for all hot work. The area is to be thoroughly cleaned with no exposed combustible material within 35 feet. If the combustible material cannot be removed, it must be covered with a fire-resistant welding blanket. A fire extinguisher must be located in the area, and you must have a fire watch for a period of 2 hours. The permit must be posted in the working area. Line break. Line breaking is allowed by permit only. The purpose of this procedure is to ensure that our employees, contractors, and company property are properly protected while engaged in breaking into or disconnecting lines that contain or have the potential to contain steam, chemical, fuel oil, gas, tallow, or pumped product, or any other potentially hazardous conditions. Confined spaces. Contractors must provide certification of up-to-date training for the individuals that will function as either an entrant, attendant, or rescuer. Contractor must provide necessary means of rescue as well. Entry into a confined space requires you to obtain a permit from your site representative before working in these spaces. Confined spaces may contain the following hazards: toxic atmospheres or oxygen deficiency, mechanical or electrical hazards, entrapment hazard in material, fall, heat, or other hazards, All entry conditions are evaluated for hazards by both a site representative and the contractor. Leave the space and notify your supervisor if any unsafe conditions develop while in these spaces. Do not introduce any hazards into the space by using chemicals which can create unsafe atmospheres unless the proper respiratory equipment is used. Your permit must be clearly posted outside the confined space. Lock out, tag out. Prior to performing work on any equipment which could result in potential exposure to the worker, the equipment must be locked out or isolated and properly tagged. Energy sources including electrical, mechanical, gravitational, chemical, hydraulic, pneumatic, must be locked and isolated. If there is any need for a lockout, tagout, your supervisor or employer must contact the site representative to coordinate the proper lockout, tagout procedure. Your company lockout procedures must be equal to or greater than JBS procedures. Procedures are formatted as follows for all lockouts: notification of affected workers, shutdown of equipment, energy isolation, installing lock and tag on equipment, relieve stored or residual energy, verification of isolation, test equipment to ensure that it is locked. Maintain locked condition until work is complete. Procedures for re-energization of equipment. Area survey to ensure no one is exposed. Reinstall guards. Employee notification. Lock removal. Test equipment. All of the machinery in this facility has written equipment-specific lockout procedures. You may obtain a copy of these procedures by contacting your site representative. Ensure these procedures are followed. All contract workers must supply their own lock to the equipment being worked on. A significant amount of electrically energized equipment is located throughout this facility. Only qualified personnel shall work on electrical equipment. All contractors who are conducting electrical work in the facility must provide documentation of certification in arc flash training. Provide proper NFPA 70E electrical personal protective equipment for the listed category 04 that they will be working with. Contractor supervisor will coordinate this effort with the facility electrical supervisor or plant engineer. Do not leave energized electrical connections or devices open for potential exposure to others. Do not tie off safety lines or rigging to electrical conduit or equipment piping. All workers should know where the nearest fire extinguisher is in their working area and how to operate it. Fire extinguishers should only be used on incipient fires. Do not block access to fire protection equipment or sprinkler systems. In addition to hazards typically encountered in construction and contracting activities, our locations may present special hazards that you are not familiar with. Most of our facilities use anhydrous ammonia as a refrigerant. Some facilities also use gaseous chlorine for water treatment. Both chemicals are considered highly hazardous by OSHA and the EPA. You will be advised which of these two chemicals this facility utilizes by your site representative. Because of these chemicals, this facility is covered by OSHA's Process Safety Management Standard. If you notice an ammonia or chlorine odor, you must report it to your site representative immediately. In case of a chemical emergency, we may evacuate specific areas or the entire facility. It is important that you stay with your employees during the evacuation and meet at the designated location for contractors. Your site representative will show you the assembly area. JBS and Pilgrims are very interested in having a safe working environment for you and your workers. Completing your work safely is extremely important. You should always be aware of the potential safety hazards that are around you and ask questions when you have concerns. Do not do a job unless you feel you can do it safely. Always maintain safe working practices in a safe working environment. Now you may be advised on specific safety concerns applicable to the task you are about to perform and to the facility you are working. Thank you for participating in this program and have a safe day. And remember, everyone is responsible for safety.